Well, Chief Inspector, I can't wait to hear about these air winch cannons.
What Sparky's referring to is our next chapter in the Bavarian Airship Regatta, which is called Pomp and Preparations.
All right.
Well, here we go. The first reaction to the announcement regarding the air winch cannons was stunned silence by the other pilots at the table. If they didn't understand Herr Zimmermann's German, they apparently caught the gist of Willie Dampf's English explanation. Suddenly, the table was all abuzz with pilots speaking in their native language to no one in general and exclaiming how incredulous they were. The exception, of course, was Philippe Garza, who couldn't help himself but sat there smugly grinning at the news. Willie stood and showed the side of himself that he hadn't revealed to Sparky yet, which was indignance. He bellowed out in German some unkind words, turned as if he was going to storm off, thought better of it, and sat down. Sparky realized that she might be the only person at the table who was not familiar with this technology. Rather than reveal her ignorance, she asked Herr Zimmermann, "Could you please explain to me how you came to the approval of the air winch cannons?" Herr Zimmermann made an interesting request. "If I may, my technical English is not so good. Is there someone who can translate into English for me?" Sergeant Fox approached the table. In German, he stated that he'd be willing to translate. His accent was very good, and to Sparky's ear, he sounded like he had grown up in Munich. Herr Zimmermann rattled out 5 or 6 German sentences, then nodded to Fox that he could translate those. Sergeant Fox began his translation. "The judges have discretion as to what constitutes a legal means for propelling the airship through the air, be it forward, up, or down. Obvious illegal means include pushing off the ground, pushing off or bumping other airships, and drafting competitors. Obviously, any help from support vehicles to propel the airship is also illegal. Using rising warm air bubbles, including tacking through them, is legal. Throwing off ballast is illegal, and therefore the firing of cannonballs rearward to gain speed would also be illegal. Similarly, using extraordinary means such as firing compressed steam or air off the back of the airship is just as illegal. Setting specialty sails is perfectly legal since it takes advantage of the atmospheric conditions." Herr Zimmermann again rattled off a long string of German and nodded to Sergeant Fox to restart the translation. What El Toro Rojo is being allowed to do is fire specialty sails out of cannons to take advantage of atmospheric conditions near their airship, but not normally reachable by fixed sails. If extraordinary means were used to fire the sails, such as gunpowder or compressed air from their steam engines, then the judges would have ruled them an illegal aid to flying. But their cannons are set through manpower like a crossbow. After the specialty sails are fired out of the air winch cannons, they deploy in a similar manner to an umbrella. They are immediately hauled back in, pulling the airship forward. Because of the manner in which they are deployed and utilized, they have been deemed legal for the regatta. Sparky was aghast. How is the Burke & Hare supposed to compete with that? She looked around for support, but it was clear that the judges were holding fast to their decision. Her concern was that the regatta was going to be a test of technology rather than of skill. She always knew that the shape and design of each racing craft played a key role, but that was a known part of the competition. This ruling could change everything and make it more of a sprint to deploy specialty sails. One by one, the pilots stood and begrudgingly headed to their airships, undoubtedly not looking forward to telling their crew about the final judge's decision. This was true for all the pilots save Philippe Garza. who still had his unstoppable grin and a twinkle in his eye. Even Willie Dumph left without so much as a goodbye. Sparky also stood, made a sour face, and left the table with her 2 protectors trailing behind her. The remainder of Sunday night was spent checking and rechecking the various systems of the Burke and Hare. This was an arduous task, since it was critical for both success in the regatta and for the safety of the craft and crew. To add to this, the airship had to be prepared for 2 hours of regatta enthusiasts walking through the Burke and Hare. Any piece of equipment that wasn't permanently fixed onto the vessel had to be stowed or risk being taken as a keepsake. The crew had a difficult schedule in the morning. From the completion of the parade of airship crews at 10:30 a.m., if all went according to plan, until noon, they had to have the airship ready for a fast-paced sprint from Munich to Salzburg, a little over 70 miles. The Burke and Hare could travel that distance in about an hour and 15 minutes, given fair weather and favorable winds, but any mishap in the preparation could easily add 10 minutes to that time, which would mean a sure loss on the leg. For that reason, the Burke and Hare crew was triple checking the boilers, the steam engine, the powertrain, propeller, cabling systems, fuel load, water level, accuracy of gauges, envelope pressure, safety equipment, emergency lines, auxiliary sails, and pre-race food quality and quantity.
Racing is hungry work.
One by one, the lights went out on the 5 moored airships as the crews attempted to get some sleep. The loud party on the El Toro Rojo finally stopped around midnight. The glittering of the few scattered lanterns on the airfield was all that could be seen as the night came to a close. And then we have a break. Monday's sunrise came all too soon for the airship crews, but by 8 o'clock they were in their finest regatta uniforms, ready to receive the expectant crowds gathered outside the airships. The Burke and Hare, just like the other airships, had set up a series of rope passageways that led the spectators in from one side of the airship, down the stairwell to the engine control room, back up another set of stairs, through the cabin hallway, out onto the catwalk, and return the viewers to the tower where the airship was tethered. At each major turn within this labyrinth stood one of the crew members to help guide the gawking populace. The 2 hours of showing the Burke and Hare went by at a glacial pace. Many inane questions were asked in broken English, or were not in English at all, about every shiny doodad on the airship. The one positive side to the parade of humanity was that the wide-eyed children who fancied themselves as future airship pilots. The youngsters viewed the airship as the world's largest walk-in wooden toy, and every brass fixture and rope knot was a wonder to enjoy. When 10 o'clock arrived, there was a silent sigh of relief by the Burke and Hare crew as they persuaded the last of the looky-loos to exit the airship. Another break. Erasmus and J.B. muttered as they squeezed into borrowed crew outfits, J.B.'s chest being of greater size than anyone else's on the airship, and Erasmus's thighs having the similar problem as he tried to put on a pair of the official trousers. This was a mandatory concession if they were to participate in the parade with Sparky. Well, technically, they were guarding her as she played the part of the carefree racing pilot, but the two of them had to look like they were members of the airship crew to provide her protection during the procession. It was possible that the grinding of Sparky's teeth was actually audible as she waited in the marching line for the parade to start. "Not exactly your cup of tea, is it?" asked J.B. in one of the few times to date that he broke out of his military veneer. An answer from Sparky was not necessary, given that her body language indicated she'd rather be taking a barefoot stroll on hot coals. The parade itself was uneventful. Everyone in both the parade and the crowds impulsively waved at each other. Brass bands played Oompa polkas and swaggering military-themed marching tunes. When it was all over, it all seemed mercifully short in duration. At the conclusion of the parade, Erasmus and J.B. stayed close to Sparky as they endured the pomposity of the address by Maximilian II, King of Bavaria. The applause rose for the finale of the speech right on time, 11 o'clock. Erasmus, J.B., and Sparky all made a beeline for the Burke and Hare to rejoin the crew and get their craft aloft. When they reached the top of the docking tower, they noticed an odd formation of non-racing airships gathered around the starting point in the sky. There must have been 30 or 40 small airships, probably privately owned, all wanting a better view of the regatta's start. Sparky had never seen such a show of wealth and interest at an airship race and was stunned into silence for more than a few seconds. When Sparky had finished her gaping, the three of them hustled inside the Burke and Hare, disappearing into their respective cabins to change into more appropriate clothing. Sparky emerged first, now in full pilot's uniform, and took her rightful place at the helm of the airship. As Erasmus and J.B. re-entered the hallway, Sparky's voice could be heard over the voice pipe. "Casting off! Take your stations! Let's get this race underway!" Erasmus thought to himself, "What a grand adventure I happened upon in the service of Queen and country."
All right.
And that ends Pomp and Preparations. And we're reading from the Bavarian Airship Regatta.
For Corona Story Time.
Thank you.
Next time. You want a sip of tea? Or, how many? Oh, boy. Okay, hang on. Use that.
Okay.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to sell this book when we're done.
I'm sorry. The condensation got me.
Okay.
Guess I have another blooper reel. Ah!